You know we're in for a ride when the story is crazy before I even get to the game. Circus Lido, and yes, the title is Lido. In the early days of PC Engine game collecting, Circus Lido was the holy grail game. The super rare collection capstone. The one where you could go, I happen to have a copy of Circus Lido right here, and everyone else would go, ooh. The reason for that is the game had microscopically small distribution. It was only available in a handful of bookstores. Around the year 2000, copies were selling for as much as 400,000 yen. That's nearly 3,000 US dollars. And then the price collapsed and you could buy a copy for 2,000 yen. I don't have the details here, but it seems likely that someone found a warehouse full of Circus Lido and dumped them on the market. These days the price on Circus Lido has rebounded, and it is one of the pricier PC Engine games, just not in the "are you insane" range that it originally was. You can get a complete copy for around 50,000 yen. Still, Circus Lido remains a cautionary tale of collector mania and bubbles. And along those lines, Circus Lido demonstrates a phenomenon that I haven't seen that often among Japanese video game collecting. You see, when there aren't that many collectors, then the expensive games tend to have a combination of rarity and desirability. While if you have a large collector community, then games tend to become expensive because of notoriety. In other words, there's a circular process that forms where a game increases in price because it's already expensive. And when that kicks in, the price becomes completely disconnected from the quality of the product. In other words, Circus Lido got bubbled up to a high price, while simultaneously being a very bad game. It's a phenomenon you see all the time in the US collector's market, not so much in the Japanese. I spent quite a bit of time trying to figure out what the title Circus Lido meant. It's Latin for circular beach, but that doesn't have anything to do with the game. This is a puzzle game in which you're a chameleon who has to swallow bugs and then spit them back out at Venus flytraps. Once all of the bugs have been eaten by the Venus flytraps, then the door to the next stage opens, and you'll have to get to that. Now, the first obvious question here is, if you're a chameleon who eats bugs, why do you spit the bugs back out as balls that you feed to plants? And what it comes down to is that all of the presentation in Circus Lido is really, really bad. The choice of visual design for, well, everything causes all sorts of problems. From the very first step here, the theming is confusing, and they probably should have done something else with it. Of course, this is a consistent problem with developer Unipost's games. Oh, excuse me, game, singular. Yeah, they never did anything before or after this. From their name, I suspected that they might be affiliated with a book publisher, and that would make sense given that the game was distributed at bookstores. But I couldn't find anything to tie Unipost to a particular book publisher. I guess after you make Circus Lido, you don't need to do anything else. Button 2 extends your tongue, and button 1 extends the tail. Usually your tongue will go out horizontally and the tail will go up vertically. But you can aim your tongue up by pressing in that direction, and you can aim your tongue down if you're clinging to a post. Your tail can grab onto any of the thinner sections of the floor, and then you pull yourself up to that level. And this is the only vertical movement that you get. Once you're on the post, you can go left or right as you need to, and you can either drop down or go off the edge. Bugs in you will fall through those thin sections of the floor, even though they look like they should be solid and things you can walk on. You can go up through these bars if there's another one to latch onto above it, and you can let go of it by tapping down. Some of the bars are special. Can you identify which one's on this screen? Okay, now that I've told you it's there, you probably can, but you might not have noticed it before. The bars with spikes on them are fatal if you pass through them. Sometimes. You see, if you've eaten a woodlouse, which some of you might call a roly-poly, and are holding it in your mouth, then you can pass through the spike bar without any problem. You can even catch onto it and crawl along. There's no visible difference to the chameleon to tell you that something's changed after they've swallowed certain bugs, just an icon that appears along the top. When you want to spit out a bug, you press button 2 again, and it will shoot out to where the dot is and then stop. The bugs emerge as balls, which will sit there for a few seconds, and then turn back into the original bug. You are able to walk on top of bugs, and they're able to walk on top of you, though you'll need to be careful about ones with spikes. The panels that look like fast forward and rewind symbols will shift part of the stage around. These are color-coded to which portions will move. You have to go on top of the panel and press up, and then it will slide over one square. There are limits to how far things can move left and right, but they're only visible once you get to that point. You can activate these panels while you're falling or are hanging from a thin part, and it'll be necessary to use that in some puzzles. The chameleon can also swim, though there aren't many stages that involve swimming. In the water, you can press button 1, that's the tail button, to swim around a little bit. It'll extend the tail if you're at the surface of the water. Circus Lido has 40 puzzle stages and 4 boss stages, and the puzzles start out as pretty difficult. Admittedly, a lot of that has to do with game mechanics not really being explained, and they're also often counterintuitive. But you'll still have to figure out how to put a lot of things together, and use some very precise timing to get through puzzles. Unfortunately, the game's controls don't really allow for precise timing. Extending the tail or tongue locks you in place for a few seconds, so if you mistime things because of erratic movement, or a little bit of delay, then you're probably already in a situation that can't be undone. You have 3 lives in Circus Lido, but infinite continues, and there is a password system. If you get stuck while playing one of the puzzles, you can hit select, and the little chameleon will just explode. Then everything resets and you try again. When it comes to Japanese players, nobody seems to think that Circus Lido was worth the absurd amounts it was going for. The most positive comment I could find was, "It's not horrible," and then that same person went on to complain about how unresponsive the controls were. Longtime viewers of this channel know that I love my puzzle games, and Circus Lido is a really bad one. It's a game where they seem to have made every possible wrong choice, right down to distribution method. The puzzles are more frustrating than they should be, thanks to the poor design choices, and overall this just isn't good enough to be worth playing. The most that Circus Lido will ever be known for was that weird whip in time when it was briefly the most sought after PC Engine game, but no one was looking for it to play it.